already did it.
Conduct the board, this says pending dismissal hearing. Disciplinary measure as opposed to, as opposed to pending, I don't get it. Without pay is disciplinary measure as opposed to pending a dismissal hearing.
School board may suspend without pay a professional employee pending a dismissal hearing, or a teacher as a disciplinary measure for up to 30 employment days for misconduct that is detrimental to the school district. So as a teacher may be suspended without pay as discipline for up to 30 days by the school board. The difference of opinion, some attorneys believe that the difference of opinion is concerning whether a board is permitted to authorize the superintendent to suspend teachers without pay. Some attorneys believe that you're not allowed to do that because of the language of the statute, and others believe that a board may delegate its authority to the superintendent to suspend teachers without pay as discipline, as opposed to pending a dismissal hearing. That's talking about whether or not the superintendent has that authority.
Okay.
The board has the authority to do both.
So what do you
Wouldn't it be
think?
safer just leaving it to the board to do that? Since there is a difference of opinion?
That would be my recommendation,
Okay.
because I believe that, and as a school attorney, I would advise my client that when you're talking about a deprivation of a right, such as a right to their compensation as a professional employee, that authority should only be exercised by the Board of Education and not an administrative employee. Even if it was delegated, I would say to my client, no, you really want the Board of Education to do this. Administration has the authority under the policy for suspensions with pay as a tool for conducting investigation. Pre-suspension, as we investigate, and whether or not, we're going to ask the Board of Education to suspend without pay.
And that's what it means as opposed to pending a dismissal hearing.
Correct.
That's why I didn't understand what that meant. Okay.
I believe that's correct, yes.
So as presented is the way that we want it
And
then?
it's also good because it doesn't fall on one person. It falls on us as one voice.
Right?
Well,
So the change to the policy is the superintendent is authorized to issue pre-suspension notification to a professional employee. We're going to send them a letter, give them a letter saying, we're looking at suspension, so here's your notice. That notification shall include the length and reason for the suspension, as well as a deadline for the employee to exercise their right to appeal that suspension to the board or the board's hearing officer. So what that's doing is allowing that we have to give that notification for that suspension.
It sounds like it's close to what we have down for December 2011, except it's clearer on the role of the superintendent as a pre-suspension. It still is falling back on the Board of Education, am I right?
When it comes to suspension without pay, I would say yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And it also states at the next scheduled meeting, regularly scheduled meeting. So it's just kind of being clearer.
Where's that?
Yeah, I don't see that either.
Where's that at, Judy? That next regular scheduled meeting?
It is on page two
We
of
didn't
two
get
at
there,
the top,
okay, got it,
where it's underlined.
okay.
If the employee does not appeal the pre-suspension notification,
In the next regular session.
the superintendent shall report the action to the board. Yes, that's correct. And then you can see suspension with pay talks about the board or the superintendent or a designee may suspend a professional employee with pay during an investigation as a disciplinary measure for misconduct or pending a board hearing to suspend them without pay. So there's three situations which the superintendent may suspend a teacher with pay, a professional employee with pay. But like I said, when it comes to the deprivation of a right, such as compensation, I believe that that's the Board of Education's responsibility, not administration. So that's the way I would see it, in my opinion, as a school attorney.
I think our Peoria district probably has ran into some of this in the last few years. You remember this, in the last few years, they suspended people, the new superintendent did. The board had to address it.
76 has probably had to deal with that in years past too.
Have you? Okay. I'm just thankful it wasn't me.
Right.
So as presented, then?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm confused, because I thought we were taking out the part about the superintendent or designee on the first page. I thought we were
No,
leaving
that's
that.
what we're
Because that's the
adding.
pre-suspension.
Yeah, he's
You
giving
can
the
go
letters.
ahead and do the pre-suspension.
Okay.
It's defining what the superintendent should be doing.
And actually, the old policy says the board or superintendent or designee, so it just, to me, they just changed the wording.
A little bit clearer.
I'm good.
Okay, we're good. Heads are nodding.
As presented. Thank you. All right. Policy 6:65 is student social and emotional development. Excuse me, that's on press, the press press
Page 6.
explanation, sorry, on page 6, on the left-hand side at the top. And it says the policy is unchanged, and this is an update to the footnotes only, and states that the school social worker may implement a continuum of social and emotional education programs and services in accordance with students' needs, and outdated web links in the footnotes are also updated. So it's just website, and a website, and a website. So really, it's just a change to the footnote.
Comments? Okay, we
Okay,
can catch
great.
reading. Just on the left, we got a thinker motion going there. Mrs. Bailey, did you have any final comments?
No, it's just totally different from my policy, so I was just trying to scan it again.
Oh, really?
October 2004.
January 2013.
Yeah, because the other one's
Just, you know, so I was just double checking.
All right. So, moving on.
Next one is policy 6:160, English language learners. And the policy is unchanged, only the footnotes are updated to discuss the changes to the administrative code, talking about the terms of limited English proficient students and students with limited English proficiencies, and just the terminology. The new term is English learners. So, as an updated definition, describes which students this term applies.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-mm.
I'm going to.
No, I don't know anything about English language learners.
Under the footnote down here, it says district must administer a home language survey for each student entering the district schools for the first time for the purpose of identifying students as a non-English background. Did we do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Just wondering.
Yes, ma'am. And we had to do it actually last year, because we did have a family that, on their survey, they marked that there was a second language spoken in the home. So we had to pay for an interpreter to come over and perform the survey and the screening. And then it was determined that even though there was a second language spoken in the home, the student did not qualify or was not categorized as an English language learner, because there's strict criteria in the screening process. So whenever that comes up, whenever we get that back on our survey, we do take a special note. Yes, ma'am.
That's really good. I was wondering about that, because I thought, oh, I didn't know they did that.
Yes, sure do. It just doesn't come up very often.
Well, it says each new student, so I was wondering, like kindergarten.
We give the survey, yes.
Right.
Yeah, but we only have to do anything if it comes back checked as a dual language home. That's when we have to actually do the screening and find out if they're in
So is
English.
that part of the registration?
Yes, ma'am.
So we should familiarize ourselves with
I know, I was
registration.
thinking that, I
again.
thought, I don't even remember that, I mean, I'm sure they did, I was thinking, I know they gave kids tests, but they come.
No, there's no test or screening
No, I mean,
given
kindergarten,
unless.
when they go in for the pre-screening, they used to do it at the library.
Just normal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, meet the kids, see what they talk to.
Gee, then this is just a move move forward since it's only a footnote, so. Move to.
So now it's English language learners, not ESL.
This is English learners. It's not language. The new term is English learners.
But it has English language learners on it.
All they changed in this policy is the footnote. These amendments address the terms limited English proficient students and students with limited English proficiency as used in Article 14C of the school code. The new term is English learners. An updated definition describes to which students this term applies. Footnotes to explain this policy's title as English learners are synonymous.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine, but they keep saying throughout the whole policy, English language learners, English language learners.
I know.
But it's synonymous, it says on footnote.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Repetitive.
Don't write
Is
it.
it? No, you stop?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thought so.
And like I said at the beginning, some of this stuff just comes out of certain specific situations from a school district. And they say, can you clarify this? Can you tighten this up? And then the committee decides, yes, we will, no, we won't. So that's kind of how they work. All right. Policy 7:70, attendance and truancy. All right. The policy and the footnote are amended by Public Act 98-544. And the following changes are there because of the change in the compulsory, the ages of compulsory education. And you can see that they took out between the ages of and just put in whose age meets the compulsory attendance age listed in state law. Boom. So if they change the state law, we don't have to go back and change the policy every time they make a change to the school code. We just have to keep up with the code. So, there we go. Unless a student has already graduated from high school, compulsory attendance ages are as follows. Now, if you look at footnote 2, down here, it says that this addresses enrolled students below the age of 7 or over set compulsory attendance ages, so it takes out the 17. The law also requires any person having custody control of a child who is enrolled in grades kindergarten through 12 in the public school to cause the child to attend school. After the 2014-15 school year begins, amend the first paragraph as follows. So you can see what we would want to do is to use the language in footnote 2 as we are already in the 2014-15 school year. So we would adopt, or this policy would be adopted with the footnote language, not the language up above. Okay, because we've already started the new year, the new school year. Does that make sense?
Now, this is enrolled in public schools, so what about homeschoolers in our district? Is that?
Homeschoolers are considered to be enrolled in an educational program. So as long as they are
If they were brought there.
enrolled, I mean, as long as there's an educational program and they're considered homeschoolers, then the compulsory education doesn't happen. We can't force them to come to school unless, or we can't force them when they say that they are homeschooling or they're being educated in a parochial setting or private school setting.
So this isn't giving the district power to jurisdict anything upon homeschoolers?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
It's just changing the compulsory laws or the ages, that if you're not in some kind of a program, educational program, you need to be in school, in a public school. So, move to first reading with footnote, language in footnote number 2. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
As we've already started the new school year. All right, but, oh, I'm sorry. I have a couple other things. You'll see that on page 3 of 4, there's a number 10, and it says, for high school and unit districts only. Numbers 10 and 11 do not apply to elementary school districts, so we would not adopt that, those numbers.
So we'll omit 10 and 11?
Yes, ma'am. That would be correct, since those have to do with the high schools or unit school districts. Talking about kids 17 and above and graduating high school, or not graduating high school.
That's not else's problem, right?
All right, 7:140 is search and seizure policy. The policy footnotes and legal references are updated in response to the Right to Privacy in the School Setting Act.
Shane?
Yes?
That's an
We do
exhibit.
not have that on the agenda.
No.
It's an exhibit, isn't it?
No, it's a policy.
Which one?
You are correct.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness. No, I'm glad you.
That's a letter to the parent. That's an exhibit.
So we have E on there.
Yeah, there's E, but there's not
There's not
Yeah.
that.
7140. Okay,
So we might as well not even discuss it.
correct. Not included in our packet.
But you can discuss it as long as you don't take action on it, right?
Packet.
Correct.
Sure.
So we can already do it.
It's a good catch.
Just me.
I wasn't following my agenda down.
Well, I've been looking for all of them. What the crap
Yeah.
was that one?
We only have exhibit on our.
Right.
Yes, that is
It's okay.
correct. The state law requires, the reason for this, state law requires the district to notify students and their parents that school officials may request and require student or his or her parent or guardian to provide a password or other related account information to gain access to the student's account or profile on a social networking website. This request may be made only if there is a reasonable cause to believe that the student's account contains evidence that he or she violated a school disciplinary rule or board policy, such as we are told that on so-and-so's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter account, they have made a threat to harm staff, other students, to blow up the school, to bring guns, to sell drugs, those kind of things. If we have that kind of reasonable suspicion, then we can ask for that information. Okay? The law lists that a school's student handbook is a method for publication of this information, which is where we will address that once we have the policy. So we will bring this one back and with
Wow,
the other
is
set.
that one an old one?
What are we doing on this one?
I will bring it back. Since it's not listed on the agenda, I'll bring it back with the other next set.
You can go ahead and bring it back as a first reading. We can discuss it, as long as we don't take action on it tonight.
Okay, it's not listed on the agenda.
It's okay.
Okay.
We're not voting on it.
We're not
That's
taking
correct.
any action.
Discussing, so I'm okay with that.
All right. Move to first reading. Okay. And, yeah, and as I said, we will be putting that in our school student handbook.
Goes in.
The state law controls us, it says.
Exactly. Policy 7:180, preventing bullying, intimidation, and harassment. Are we okay?
Yeah, she was showing me.
Am I being
how
laughed
old-
at?
No,
Oh.
she was showing me how old it was, I said, that's what Judy said.
Oh.
Very old, can't you tell by the writing of it even? It's like, whoa, that was a
Typewriter. It
typewriter.
was a typewriter, yes. Okay.
Oh, I'm glad those days are past.
Oh, sure.
All right, preventing bullying and intimidation. The changes in the law, each Illinois school board must adopt a policy on bullying and must update it every 2 years and must file it with the State Board of Education. Now, what they said is they strengthened the policy, updated the footnotes and the cross-references. These actions are taken in response to federal and state efforts to stop peer-to-peer bullying. And it goes on, blah, 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 about a law seminar for the National School Council of School Attorneys. And the policy is augmented to state that the district will not punish or retaliate against anyone because he or she made a complaint or report, supplied information, or otherwise participated in an investigation or proceeding, provided the individual did not make a knowingly false accusation or provide knowingly false information. So, you know, of the changes here, you can see they're talking about making sure that our students are safe in our schools.
A lot more teeth in it.
It's the reference, and this is really the good part, is a reference back to uniform grievance procedure. And we have begun, I've instructed our building principals to steer our parents toward that. Instead of making just an accusation against, you know, other students as my child is being bullied, then, you know, just making a verbal accusation, having them steer the parents back to the uniform grievance procedure, having them look at that, give them a copy of the policy to the parents so that they understand that here's how we will be stepping through the investigation of bullying.
But your policy says it could be orally, a report is orally or written.
Right, we take it.
Oh,
They can
okay.
come to us and tell it to us, you know,
And you write it
orally.
down.
But we tell them, here's how, here's the policy, here's the grievance procedures, here's how we're going to go through this as a matter of investigation. So that the parents have an understanding that if you're making an accusation, here's what your responsibilities are, here's our responsibilities, and we're gonna take all of these steps. So that they know, and they can't just turn around in 2 weeks and say, the school district didn't do anything, my kid's still being bullied, blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the policy, did you go through it, here's what we did. So that we're covering our, you know, the steps of our investigations.
But it says a student who is being bullied is encouraged to immediately report it orally or written, not the parent.
Mhm.
So should we put the student who's being bullied needs to have their parent come in and report it?
No.
Okay, so the student could
No,
do it.
students always do it, and we don't,
Okay.
you know, we don't just give the uniform
meant in
grievance.
general.
Yeah, it's when the parent comes, if the student didn't tell us a thing, didn't tell anyone, didn't tell the bus driver, didn't say anything to the lunch monitor, didn't tell the school teacher, didn't go to Ms. Callahan's room and say so-and-so is doing this, okay? The parent calls the school district and says, my child's being bullied, do something about it. Well, here's what we're gonna do, and in talking to your student, he or she did not tell anyone, we don't know, this was not a complaint that was filed in school, you know, and it's giving the parents an idea of, we're taking this seriously, we're not just, you know, giving somebody lip service, but we will investigate. Yeah. But no, we encourage, and that's a part of the PBIS program and the Warrior Way, and this social emotional counseling that goes on at the school talks about bringing these issues to an adult. We can't do anything about it. You go home and tell mom and dad, and we don't tell the students this, but if something really happened, or they're just aggravated at a friend, so-and-so is bullying me or said this and blah, blah, blah at school. And the parents are just calling the principals and making accusations. So we steer them towards the uniform grievance procedure and say, this is what we're gonna do, this is what you need to do, and here's how we're gonna address this situation. Because we want to address all complaints and accusations of bullying, but they can't just be innocuous. You can't just say, my kid's being bullied. When, where, how, who, all of those things. And then the parents, some follow through, some don't, so.
Then it goes on, and we change quite a bit in the board policies. So has somebody done the research for us of the numbers being, because I do suggest that too, to make sure they're relevantly adopted policies. Like for 1A,
You know, if they go to say
it turns into
Six Flags.
colon 260.
And the policy that we have now says 1A is 720, is that,
Uh-huh.
okay?
So are our policies this, I guess is what?
No, this is what our current policy is in the white.
Yeah, but 2.260 of our policy, does it deal with what this one says that they're recommending us to put in?
Yes.
Okay.
The district
That's what
complaint manager shall
Because
address
there's
the
a lot
complaint
of-
promptly and equitably.
Because there's a lot of difference in what our policy is current have right now.
Right, and that's what they were saying, was that they were making, you know, putting a lot of, how did they strengthened this policy and updated the legal references in the footnotes and in response to the federal and state law.
Okay, because
So,
they went up to
yes.
F, so they do have more, D, and F more, plus the numbers. So
Mhm.
our new policy of 2.260 comply with that,
Yes,
is what I meant?
that is correct.
Okay,
We will get
so
them
this
there.
definitely has to be as presented.
On page 1, is this the bottom, the very last, I guess it's a footnote, does that need to be in our handbook? Is it already in our handbook?
It is already in our handbook, but not as detailed as it is here. So,
Should we?
yes, we will, yes. And we'll get to that because that's in the last part here about the
Student handbook.
student handbook checklist.
And
Which is
school
there.
website?
Mhm. We will need to take care of that as well. All right, as presented?
I'm still,
Okay.
Do you have a 7.185 in the
That's
book?
what we were just talking, we didn't see the policy 71.85, teen dating.
right, it keeps referring to that, but we don't have that policy.
Is that maybe only for the high schools?
I don't
Well,
know.
it's not used for the high school, but we
We
have a
don't
lot of
have it.
teenagers and they do date.
7185 was never adopted by Creve Coeur School District.
Okay.
Yep.
It's coming up on our list.
Teen dating violence prohibited.
Mhm.
It's on our list for
It is?
tonight.
Yeah, it says it's on.
Next one, in fact.
So we need to adopt it if we're gonna adopt this.
Well, yeah, either that or take it out.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think we can take it out, because there, the footnote updates and clarifies that the law requires all school districts to adopt the policy. And that may be why it's not in the current handbook,
I put that
because
in
it
here.
was,
Bullying must have.
the footnote, or the teen dating violence prohibited policy was not a requirement of all school districts. This is now saying that it is a requirement of all school districts. So that's why you don't have one in your book, and we have to
Yeah,
And it
have one
does
now.
say this
all
at the
school
footnote too.
districts. Yeah.
All school boards
Have to adopt it.
That's why I wrote up the top.
There's no
I can
choice.
remember, it's been a month, sorry.
I know it, that's what I can't.
It's like,
I'm
I don't
sorry.
know why I wrote that.
Okay.
It's not your fault, I can't remember.
Does anyone else have 7.310?
7 point what? 319.
Do we have that one?
Restrictions on publication.
Yes, we do. I found it. Never mind.
Oh, I didn't go back to all the cross-referenced policies here. We didn't go through all of that. It was
I
a-
just
it was-
wanted to
I didn't
make
wanna
sure
be-
that we had the
that was-
policy if we were gonna approve this one.
Right.
And if it is, to be changed, there'll be changes as they come along.
All right.
Yeah. As we get them all caught up, we will get back into
So are
the
we
right
ready to move
circulation.
on? Mrs. Bailey?
It's been all over the news this week too, about the bullying in the media.
I had a question on why it was renumbered, but I have no idea now why.
Why, what was the name?
So nothing's
Four.
changed about this?
Looks like they crossed it down.
I couldn't get the, I guess it doesn't matter. Oh, my other question was, on number 10, it says that the policy, that the board needs to review this policy every 2 years. How do we keep track of that?
Complies with state and federal law and is in alignment with board policies. This includes prompting the board to update the policy beginning every 2 years after its initial adoption and filing this policy with the State Board of Education after the board adopts it or updates it.
So what would your suggestion be that the board do this every 2 years? How do we keep track of it that we do?
Is that one of the requirements that the state brings when they come in and review things? With
A
your
compliance,
office,
a
the
compliance visit, yes, it would be that. They would look at that as a, do you have this policy and is it in place?
Yeah.
And what I would say, our current one says it was reviewed by the board on June 18th, 2013.
And before that, it was February 2008.
January 2011 is when I held that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
so let's
good.
try and, yeah.
No, that's good,
All right.
that's every 2 years.
This
Done.
is, goals prevent, okay. Contents. I'm trying to see if this is one of the policies that teachers and staff must undergo training on every 2 years. And if so, we just put it in the cycle with the Board of Education and in that cycle with the teacher's training. But I would have to go and look at that to make sure. And if
This is some of the
No.
things that slip.
the, that could be something, the policy must be filed, it must be updated every 2 years and again filed with the state board, does not specify the content. Policy and supervision, execution, must annually communicate their bullying policy to students and parents in the handbook up on the website. Okay. That is a good question that we can put together a,
You know, if you buy a new bus, you review the bullying policy. You've got to get something.
right, that's what, yeah.
Triggers.
Mm-hmm, I
Well,
agree
what else is
completely.
every 2 years?
That's what I said. Insurance is every year.
I would think that press would be putting that out there
Mhm.
as, don't forget, this is one of those things that
That would
you
be
need to do.
nice.
Right,
Yeah,
but I
if we
can't,
get behind, we're
I
not
can't
gonna get the-
guarantee it.
Right.
Right, I'm sorry I was
Yes, we do.
sick.
Can you color code it in the book a little different? Like the Louisiana book?
I put it in the secretary.
Yeah, put an asterisk by it, the ones who have to be reviewed every 2
I
years.
just think that is why
It gotta
it's
be a lot.
covered. Because they're gonna come at you and say, do you have this in place?
Yes, the State Board of Education and the regional office, when they do their compliance visits, would look at that, but their compliance visits are only every, full compliance are only every 5 years. So that wouldn't,
And you're
that
gonna
wouldn't
get dinged.
help
Yeah.
us, yeah. It wouldn't help us in that regard. And the State Board of Education, they're telling you have to do it, and they don't care if you do it or not. You just better do it. They're not gonna send you a reminder.
And
So
prompting.
that is,
But the district has to send it into ISB every 2 years, correct?
uh-huh,
So I guess that would be your trigger right there.
They make a list of things.
but I
that-
don't think that there is a, there's not a prompt from the State Board of Education to do that. That's what I mean. They don't care if you do it or don't do it.
It just
But if
says
you
will.
don't, they're gonna come and, you know, when they do their compliance visit, they're gonna
That's what
kick you in the
they're
butt.
gonna ding you on.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I agree, we need to have some kind of a tickle device or something that's going to, tell us that we need to do this and send it into the State Board of Education. So, let me talk with Stephanie and see what kind of ideas she might have. You know, I could come up with a lot of things, but if it isn't anything that doesn't,
Can you put on your phone
Put-
for 2 years
Yeah.
from now, on your calendar, ding, 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 harassment, review policy?
twice.
They usually update it every press anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
This policy gets updated more than any other.
And it's really big now.
But no, I want to, while that doesn't have any impact on adopting the policy, I will definitely make note of that so that we figure out some kind of administratively within the office how to do that, so that we don't forget that one.
Add that one part to the handbook.
That will be done. And on the website,
Yeah.
move to first reading. Great. Teen dating violence is prohibited. Policy 7:185. As we said previously, this was not a policy that every school district had to adopt, but the change in the law, now all school boards, you can see in footnote 1, it says, all school boards with students enrolled in grades 7 through 12 must have a policy on teen dating violence. Well, they scratched that out.
All
Okay.
school boards.
And it's just say all school boards.
Right.
Exactly. So that's what we need to do. And this is an issue that is covered with our counseling at Parkview. They do a good job with the boys and the girls talking about these types of issues. So
They struck it on the top line, but added it back in on the next to the last line in number 1.
The
They brought
curriculum.
in grades 7 through 12 again.
Mm-hmm.
They struck it out and brought it back in.
They just reworded it.
the curriculum components for teen dating violence education, which apply to districts with students enrolled in grades 7 through 12, are listed in administrative procedure. Because there's curriculum components that apply to those grades in particular, but not necessarily at the 3rd grade level.
Okay.
Even though, we are, the school district has grades 7
Okay, so
7 and 8.
curriculum is just for 7 through 12.
Mhm.
Got it.
Do we want to delete wording who is 13 to 19 years of age?
For purposes of this policy, the term dating, or teen dating violence occurs whenever a student who is 13 to 19 years of age uses or threatens to use physical and mental abuse to control an individual in the dating relationship. For the purpose of this policy, the term teen dating occurs whenever a student who is 13 to 19 years of age uses or threatens to use.
In footnote number 3, it suggests if it's in a middle school that you delete that phrase.
Delete the following phrase from the first sentence. For districts that wish to broaden the ages, for example, perhaps to include 11 and 12-year-olds in a middle school setting, delete the following phrase from the first sentence.
We have 16-year-olds in Parkview.
Law defines
Just
dating.
take the age out altogether, then it's not, it's everybody.
Otherwise, you're letting an 11-year-old do it.
And a 12-year-old, yeah. That's what I
To be
mean.
safe.
And some 7th graders might be 12.
Yes. Okay. So that is footnote number 3. Boom. Move to first reading with
Opening that up to a 5th grader who's getting accused of something he doesn't know what
no,
that is.
number 3. 3 deletion.
I'm
And
sure
not
there's
trying to be
exceptional.
naive, I'm just,
I'm sorry, Ms. Cagle, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
so you opening that up though to a 5th grader.
They say the word and don't know the meaning, is what you're implying.
I mean, not to say that they don't, but.
I think this was just dating now.
I know, but getting accused of.
The law defines dating or a dating relationship as an ongoing social relationship of a romantic or intimate nature between two persons. The term does not include a casual relationship or ordinary fraternization between two persons in a business or social context. I think it's got to do with kids.
Yeah.
So, the concern, Mrs. Cagle, is teen dating violence, and if we scratch out 13 to 19 and open it up to all our students,
You gotta have curriculum.
is there going to be could there be an issue with an 11-year-old in this kind of situation?
And it's supposed to go on number 3, right? Age-appropriate instruction. So they have to, schools have to provide it.
In grades 7 through 12, in accordance with the
Yeah.
Comprehensive Health Education Program.
So I'm not,
This includes incorporating student social emotional development into the educational programs required by state law.
Can we put, for purpose of, it occurs whenever a student who is in grades 7 through 12? Would that help?
it's already got it in there, so.
No, I mean, instead of putting, whenever a student who is 13 through 19, put grades 7 through 12. That way, if you have a 12-year-old in 7th grade, it would cover them.
It's got that in the number 3.
Issues with some of the kids that are emotional.
That's for curriculum.
Yeah.
It's not for,
That's where this is telling you to go to, isn't it? Am I right?
yes.
Okay, that's, number 3 goes with number 3. And it's
No.
already got grade 7 through 12.
No, that's just a footnote. Up there, number 3 goes up here. Do you see it? The footnote? Under, in the whole paragraph, then it has a footnote 3. On the
And
first
that was their
page.
suggestion.
Okay, in the first paragraph,
Right.
okay.
The policy is
Mr. Alders,
unchanged.
maybe we should have it for all of Parkview. Maybe it should be for all of Parkview.
Well, then that would be age appropriate
middle school.
instruction in grades 7 through 12. That's what's required under the law now when we talk about the instruction to them about social emotional development in the dating situation. If we're talking about expanding that to include 5th and 6th grade as well,
Does that mean we have to have instruction? for
that would mean we would have to have curriculum and an instructional process with that.
Okay, and I think you're both talking about different things. You're talking
Yeah.
about the first page taking the ages out, correct?
Yeah, I don't want my 5th graders to have instruction on sexual education in 5th grade.
This is teen
No,
dating
it's teen
violence.
dating.
They already do anyway, but,
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They should. That's a different policy.
okay, but you're wanting the ages taken out on the front page, right?
I think she wants them put in.
She wants to leave up.
Okay, she
No.
changed her mind.
Okay.
No, I don't.
What do you want, Brenda?
This is gonna go, what do you want?
Go ahead and say what you were gonna say, Mr. Alders, sorry.
I'm just saying, if we are looking at expanding this, taking out 13 through 19, then, and expanding it so that it's all students, or, you know, changing it to 5th through 8th grade, what I would think would need to be done is that when we look at number 3 on the backside, it incorporates age-appropriate instruction in grades 7 through 12. So if we're gonna hold students in 5th and 6th grade accountable for their conduct in regard to teen dating violence, we would need to give them that instruction as well. So not just 7th and 8th graders.
I'm fine with how it reads.
So then leave the 13 to 19.
Yeah.
I'll leave the 13. Do we have any 19-year-olds?
No, I've never heard of
Well,
that
that's why
one.
if we just put
16.
grades 7 through 12, it
Yes.
will get the 12-year-olds that are in 7th grade. They're limited, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But, you know, it's like, oh, I'm 12, I'm in 7th grade, so it doesn't apply to me.
Well, you're still gonna
It
have
should.
that dealt with if that
The
would come
7th and
up.
8th
It's just that
graders.
we
Yes.
don't have the curriculum that we have to develop for this other age group.
But it's already, we don't have to develop anything different, because it's still 7th through 12th. So if you put over here, students who are in 7th through 12th, it covers both. I mean, it's the same language. You're not changing from age to grade. Just keep grade in all of it.
What happens when you've got 5th and 6th who are promiscuous?
They're not 7th through 12th graders.
Right.
So she's saying put the same. Does
So
make
you're
more
not
sense.
But
dealing with that.
13 to 19-year-olds would include that.
No, it wouldn't.
5th and 6th are 13.
Usually they're 10, 11.
No,
No.
that's 3rd grade. 3rd grade is 10.
Usually it's 9.
No.
My
Or 7,
my fifth graders
8.
are 11.
Your 5th grader's 11, right. Your 6th grader's 12. But some, and that's people, depending on when your birthday falls.
And they're already behind a year, so they should be
In 6th.
maybe number 10 in fifth grade, so.
In 3rd grade, I had 10 and 11-year-olds.
Okay.
So anyway,
Decide.
I would prefer if they aren't. I don't want the curriculum to change for 5th and 6th graders, that's my whole issue. So,
How big of a deal would this be to incorporate this in the sex ed that we currently have? That is still happening in 5th grade, correct?
I don't know, I haven't been in 5th grade in a long time. It's a health, it's not sex education, it's a health curriculum. So they talk about the reproductive organs and they talk about how things work. They don't talk about the sex act.
my guys already know how that works anyway.
That's different, but
I think adopting the state has here is fine, but you guys talk about it, so.
What current instruction do we have in 7th and 8th?
you know, I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head.
Probably
I
the
don't-
same
didn't know if
thing
it was
in
something
science.
that maybe the health department would come in and do a presentation, or, you
Center
know,
for
maybe
Abuse.
something that simple.
The Center for Abuse has a bullying program that they talk just to girls. So is it in with their, it could be in with their curriculum, their
They do.
program.
We have, what's it called, Hearts?
We have, yeah, there's hearts and then there's mind over muscle.
Mind over muscle and,
And, for the girls and the boys that work with small groups. But there is a time in the school year that's a week or 2 weeks long that they go and they divide out all the girls and all the boys in PE and do a more.
an expanded
expanded,
health,
Yeah.
health curriculum,
In
right?
their age group.
Mhm.
Yes,
And that's just 7th and 8th, that's not the, I don't, well, no, they do come to the lower grades,
in the 5th
But-
and 5th, I know that they do in the 5th
yeah, they
grade.
do, but they do that in the classroom, I've never
Right.
seen them, they usually use my room for the 7th and 8th graders, and that's why I've been in there
Right,
with
because
the girls.
that, they take them out of the PE and do
Yeah.
the health situation, or the health
And it's too
instruction.
many kids to fit in the classroom, so that's why they put them in my room, because there's more room.
Yeah.
So we're
So,
complying at
folks,
any age.
for purposes of this policy, the term teen dating violence occurs whenever a student who is 13 to 19 years of age uses or threatens to use physical, mental, or emotional abuse to control an individual in the dating relationship, or uses or threatens to use sexual violence in the dating relationship. All right, so we could, if we scratch that out, that's fine. When we talk about number 3, and the age-appropriate instruction in accordance with the district's comprehensive health education program. This includes incorporating student social and emotional development into the district's educational programs required by state law and in alignment with board policy. So there isn't in this board policy on teen violence, teen dating violence, they're referring back to age-appropriate instruction in grades 7 through 12.
So if we took out the year, the age altogether, then what happens? Is that for everybody then in the whole school district?
For districts who wish to broaden the ages, for example, perhaps include 11, 12-year-olds in the middle school setting, delete the following phrase. So if you take out the reference to age, then yes, you are opening it up to all age groups.
Not the curriculum though.
No,
No.
just
You're
the
opening up
threats.
the threats, right.
The
Right.
You
teen
don't have to
dating
teach
violence.
Right, so if a sixth graders, a seventh or eighth graders dating a sixth grader, it's nice if the sixth grader might know that that's
But you gotta read the
teen dating
whole,
violence, yeah.
you gotta read the whole paragraph. To me, I don't care if they're 12 and a half or they're 13. If they're threatening, then you take care of it.
Right.
And that's
No,
why
and
I
this gives
wanted,
us the power to do that.
I totally
Right.
agree
And if
with
you
that.
have a 12-year-old who's maybe even in sixth grade dating an older
Mm.
kid, at least they would know that there's repercussions.
so if you take the age out of it, then you're not limiting yourself as
Right.
much.
No, it's
That's all I was-
broadening it up.
And we
Right.
don't have to change the education.
No.
No,
Has
you don't
nothing
have
to
to
do
do
with
it.
the
Have to.
curriculum, you don't have to do the
Because
education.
we are doing what we're supposed to do right now.
Correct.
Under law.
We don't
And
have
it-
that policy.
And it does fully implements and enforces harassments of students being prohibited, preventing bullying, intimidation, and harassment. Okay, and so it is, this is referring back to those other policies as well, to make it a full wraparound that we can.
When is a teen? When is a teen? What age?
13, right?
13, thank you. This whole thing, teen dating violence prohibited.
So
But
if
is
we
it
just
So-
took out
included?
the
Yes.
age altogether,
Yes,
then you're
because
more
you got younger.
inclusive.
Well,
We're not
I think they're wanting to.
limiting ourselves, like Linda's talking about, that if someone's trying to date a 12-year-old who is in 8th grade, or maybe it's a kid that's been in 8th grade 3 times now.
Right, and if it threatens to use physical, mental, or emotional abuse,
Mhm.
I don't care what age the child
Well, I
is,
agree with that.
that we should be able to
But
encompass this.
just remember it says teen, so taking out all ages gets you covered. Because 11 and 12-year-olds are not considered a teen dating.
So you wanna change the heading to that?
Yeah, is that what you're saying?
Or-
That dating, violence prohibited?
Might wanna do that if you're wanting to strike the age
Okay.
as a teenager, just dating violence.
Kids are dating much younger.
Then you'll have to take the teen out in the first sentence also.
Mr.
And
Aldridge?
it's all through the.
I would just leave that. Bring it to a vote, let's see what the board wants to do, the majority of the board. Because I think we all have different opinions on whether it should be or shouldn't be.
Okay, what is it that you
Whenever a
want,
student,
you want to be brought forward to the first reading?
I think what I'm hearing, whenever.
As it's
a-
presented?
No.
And then you guys
No.
discuss about it at the first reading?
Occurs whenever a student uses or threatens to use physical, mental, or emotional abuse. Just as they tell us to do, strike out, don't add anything, strike it out.
Dating situation.
Yeah,
Strike out the ages on page 1.
yeah. Who is 13 to 19 years of age is stricken. Whenever a student uses or threatens to use. Okay, we got
Yeah, as
nodding
Judy
heads.
said.
Okay, so with footnote 3.
Right.
Okay.
And let the board decide
At
what
that
they wanna
time.
do. Also, should we take out the words dean of students simply because we don't have one?
Where's that at?
It's on page 2, under B, and then again on, under number 2 and number 4. I don't see that it's necessary to be there.
It just, if you ever want to build.
Incorporates education.
It probably complies
We don't have
with-
assistant principals either,
Yeah.
Now we have acting principals.
Yeah.
which, yeah, but those aren't assistant building
Right.
principals. Dean of students or complaint manager.
I just wanted to nitpick a little.
Any preferences?
I say we take it out, that way it doesn't confuse the public.
Right.
You have to have that, you have to have that policy in there, don't you?
I just meant the dean of students.
Just striking out dean of students in number 4.
But we
And
have a number of
Two.
them that aren't in there.
It's in 2 places.
yeah, dean of
2,
students here,
B,
dean
and
of students there.
4.
Right. Striking it there.
I don't see any harm in leaving it in, actually. Who knows what the state's gonna do if they tell you you need a dean, if harassment, teen violence is increasing, which could be. I think they're just trying to cover all their bases. If they need one of those, then is my opinion. They probably have a reason that they put it in there,
Because high schools have a dean,
Right.
and
I
so
would
that
take
we
it out. We
go
don't have
to the
one.
high schools.
but we're talking about,
This is a thing for middle school to high school.
Footnote number 8, customize this list to reflect local conditions.
well, there you go. Then you've got to strike more than just the dean.
Yeah, the dean of
That's fine.
students, assistant building principal. It's
Should we
fine, whatever.
Acting.
Acting instead of assistant building principal?
Yeah, let's do it right. Acting principal. And dean of students.
We don't have a
Do you wanna put acting
non-discrimination
now?
coordinator, or is
That's
that?
what we're going.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, that's right.
That's you?
And complaint managers are the building, are Mr. Jokish and Ms. Mueller.
That was in policy before.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there you go.
So-
Got it?
And changing assistant to acting,
Mhm.
CTING, striking dean of students in number 2B and number 4. Am I right?
Yes.
It
Okay.
just cleans it up.
Very good. And with deletion and notes on page 2 of 2. Good. All right. There. All right. Policy 71:190, student discipline. What are we talking about here?
The
We're
cigarettes.
talking about possession or use of medical cannabis, even by a student for whom medical cannabis has been prescribed. We can still prohibit it. So, all of our students who have a medical prescription for possession of medical cannabis, we can prohibit that at school. It's my understanding that medical cannabis for children is in a liquid form, not a smoke 'em if you got 'em form. So,
And it looks like they have to become a registered qualifying patient, so otherwise there has to be a doctor involved in presenting this to the school, right?
most definitely.
Okay.
No,
So they updated this policy in its footnotes, legal references to accomplish each of the following: to prohibit to prohibit teen dating violence as described in Board Policy 7:185. So that is change on that one is number 9 on page 3 of 11. You can see that it says that students may be disciplined for engaging in teen dating violence as described in Board Policy 7:185. Got that? All right, looks back at that. Number 3, state in a footnote that failure of a school official, including any administrator, teacher, counselor, support staff, or coach, to report hazing is a crime. That's just exactly what I need. Be arrested because of hazing. To report hazing. Who are we supposed to report hazing to? The failure of a school official to report hazing is a crime. A person commits a felony hate crime when, by reason of the actual or perceived race, color, ancestry, blah, 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 he or she commits assault or battery. The penalty is heightened when the offense is committed in a school or administrative facility. Transmitting a threat of violence, death, or bodily harm directed against a person at a school, school function, or school event, whether or not school is in session, or causing such a threat to be transmission, is a class 4 felony. But where does it say I'm going to go to jail if I fail to report hazing?
Back to hate reporting, mandated reporting. Is that in that one? Way up
Yeah, who do you report that to?
there. I imagine it's the 800.
I guess it says you have to report it, or it's a crime, I guess you would report it to the police or something.
There's a special number
Call your attorney
for
first.
No, I'm just thinking about the one where something might happen, such as the cheerleading case up in the suburbs, where it took place, off school property and blah, 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 and the administration didn't know anything about it until the parents brought it into the school, and where's this hazing happening? And the parents made the connection to the school because it was a school team, it was cheerleaders actually, and cheerleading parent. The hazing took place off school property, but it was related to a team, the school team. So the school was held that it should have knowledge of this, or had knowledge, constructive knowledge, because it was taking place at school, even though nobody knew about it and nobody reported it. That's our dilemma. So I'm just trying to find here, and I guess I will have to go to the criminal code to find out, because failure to report hazing is a crime, as we said, 720 ILCS 512C-50.1. So there's a reference to the new law, and I will have to find that to see where we're supposed to report hazing. Engage in hazing, number 9, engage in hazing or any kind of bullying or aggressive behavior that does physical or psychological harm to a staff person or another student, or urging other students to engage in such conduct.
But under 12, it also talks about being involved in a sorority, fraternity, secret society, I mean, maybe because of that?
Where do I report? Who do I report it to? Does it go to the board? Do I have to get law enforcement involved? I'm just not seeing what we're supposed to do.
There's no chain.
Yeah. Just tell me who I have to tell.
Is there an AP policy that goes with that? Procedure, I mean.
No, ma'am. Not here, anyway. So I will just have to, we'll just have to look that up and find what the,
Abuse reporting.
what it's supposed to be.
Mandated. Nothing like that, Joe.
Yeah, is it supposed to go to DCFS? Is that something that is a mandated reporting to the Department of Children and Family Services? Is it to local law enforcement agency enforcement? Or is it to the State Board of Education? Is it to the local board? That's all I want to know. So, which really doesn't affect the language of the policy, but
Just need to know.
just some clarifications, yes. Number 4, there's a clarification to the policies, prohibitions concerning weapons. The prohibition concerning weapons apply regardless of whether a student is licensed to carry a concealed firearm or the board permits visitors who are licensed to carry a concealed firearm to store a firearm in a locked vehicle in a school parking lot area. Okay, there's still that prohibition. Even though a student may have a concealed carry permit, they're not allowed to bring their concealed weapon onto school property.
Can they have, at their age, can they have a weapon, a registered weapon at that age?
You have to have
It's
a
a 16-year-old, correct?
16-year-old can have a firearm,
Registered.
FOI, firearm identification.
So it could affect us.
On his FOIA.
No, FOID, F-O-I-D.
Yeah, FOID, something
F-O-I-D.
FOIA. Someone told me the other day you could
Go get a
Those only
FOID.
cost $5.
FOID card, only costs $5, that's right. And you gotta go through a 40-hour or training to get your concealed carry permit, blah, blah, blah. The only thing I can talk about this is, the only thing I can talk to here is that in the rural school areas, high school, Future Farmers of America curriculum included firearm safety, and the use of firearms is a recreational sport with clay pigeons that they shot. Now, most schools probably don't do that anymore, but that's the way it used to be. And I don't know if this is a throwback to that because of the NRA, who knows? But I don't want our kids, whether they got a permit or not, to bring guns to school. Just doesn't seem right to me.
Right. And that's what this is referring to, too.
Correct.
All in favor of that, no guns at school.
They rewrote the footnote to the policy's paragraph concerning transfers to an alternative program if the student is expelled or otherwise qualifies for the transfer under state law. The footnote now states, use of the phrase is suspended in excess of 20 school days, even though a 20 consecutive day suspension should be treated as an expulsion. An alternative program is probably available to a student who is suspended for 11 to 20 consecutive days because that student is technically expelled and as such qualifies for the safe school. Contact your board attorney if the district wants to interpret the statute as referring to cumulative school days so that it can transfer a student to an alternative program upon his or her suspension in excess of 20 cumulative school days. So, I don't see
My
any
goodness.
problem with that footnote. Most of our suspensions are up to 10 days, and then expulsions go beyond and are usually more than 20 days.
Fuck you. Everyone's like putting a coat on.
Oh, okay. The sample policy prohibits the use of isolated timeout and physical restraints. That's a rewriting of the footnote. Blah, blah, blah. Teachers have to be trained on that, or all staff have to be trained on the use of timeout and physical restraints. So, that was just the other footnote. Required notices and delegation of authority, student handbooks. just changes to the numbers in the footnotes.
I think they got us covered, don't you think? You think something more should be added?
Yes.
What?
Number one.
Okay, number one.
I think this is an excellent place to put in electronic cigarettes or lookalikes.
Vapes.
Vapes, well, that's why I put lookalikes, because who knows what they're gonna be called next week.
Yeah, and it says it even in the footnote, it hasn't addressed that,
Mhm.
so.
And Mr. Aldrich had brought this to us a month or so back and said it needed to be done. I realize this is under students, but
It's a good.
that also.
Yeah, I know East Peoria, they, if students have electronic cigarettes, even at like a after-school activity, they use it for suspension. You know,
Because
they
there is an
follow
amount
it.
of tobacco in those replacements.
The nicotine.
Yeah,
nicotine,
nicotine.
yeah.
Can be.
It says in here something about for electronic cigarettes.
It does. But I also think we need to have another word such as lookalike, because like Mrs. Greiner said, they're called different things now. So try to cover anything coming up next month, next week.
So how would you restate number one?
Board may use the following, I'm sorry, I'm just reading at the footnote 3 at the very bottom. Boards may use the following alternative to prohibit electronic cigarettes. And it says using, possessing, distributing, purchasing, or selling tobacco materials or electronic cigarettes. And you're saying or
Lookalikes.
look-alikes.
That's exactly what they use as far as the drugs. They use the word lookalike.
And weapons.
And weapons, exactly, so.
So would that go up in number one or down in number 3 footnote?
In number one,
You
because
want it
the
up in number one?
Footnotes don't.
the footnotes will not come out in our policy.
Okay.
Like, sometimes I wish they would, but they
Yeah,
don't.
they really need to.
Mhm.
So
Number one.
tell us what you want to read.
Using, possessing, distributing, purchasing, or selling tobacco products or electronic cigarettes or lookalikes. And or.
I guess I'm gonna put
Tobacco
examples.
materials, comma, electronic cigarettes.
All right, she's fixing mine. Go ahead.
So you get the gist of it.
Electronic cigarettes.
Mhm. And or lookalikes.
What else needs to go in for the teachers?
Where do you want to put it also?
It needs to go in for all school staff as well.
Oh, yeah, we have to do that in a different policy.
Yeah. Not just for our students, it needs to go in for all personnel.
Mhm.
And
Really?
I think, yes, I believe it needs to be in here. Lookalikes is F. And it says lookalike are counterfeit drugs, including a substance not containing an illegal drug or controlled substance, but one that a student believes to be or is represented to be an illegal drug or controlled substance, or about which a student engaged in behavior that would lead a reasonable person to believe they expressly or impliedly represent to be an illegal drug or controlled substance, because a student under the age of 18 is not able to purchase the electronic cigarettes. It could fall under that as well. But I have no problem with belts and suspenders. So putting it up here would make it pretty plain to parents.
Yeah.
So, using, possessing, distributing, purchasing, or selling tobacco materials, what do they say? Or electronic cigarettes. And what was the language that you,
Or lookalikes.
And or lookalikes.
selling tobacco materials,
I don't think there's any.
comma, and slash or look
It says
like
electronic cigarettes and or lookalikes.
alike.
Isn't that what she said?
Yeah. She wants an and in there.
Okay,
My insurance company.
very good.
As a side note, our insurance company won't even insure a business that is selling the
All right, anything else?
vapor
Any illegal drugs or controlled substances or cannabis, including medical cannabis, marijuana, and hashish, are prohibited. Gotta love it.
Are we covered? Can we go on?
Yes. If you'd like.
Just need to cover,
Good.
that's what I said, right, you covered. Okay.
Move to first reading with edits. Ooh. Parent, I'm sorry, policy 8:95, parental involvement. The policy is unchanged, updated footnotes only to discuss the optional policy provision concerning bring your parents to school day. If implemented, it would occur annually on the first Monday in October. A footnote identifies the caveats concerning school safety, collective bargaining agreement, and possible loss of instructional time. It's my contention that we have time for parents to be involved in their students' classes and programming. So I don't see that this is necessary.
Welcome back to
No, we don't do it.
teachers.
I think
Yeah,
it'd be
we
great.
We have a day.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do. Meet your teacher night. What do you call that?
But that's different than going to school all day and seeing what they're doing in their classroom.
I
That's
don't
just a
know that
teacher that
it's
says,
safe
this is my
going to
rules,
school.
this is my expectation, this is how your child. I think it's a lot different if I sat in their classroom and see what they were doing.
I don't think that says that in there, does it?
I thought that's what it meant. To
It
bring-
is establishing a specific day in which parents can come to school
Right.
and be involved in school activities the first Monday in October.
Best idea I've heard in a long time. We keep wanting our parents in to help with this or that, you get them in for this, it'll go a long way as far as our PR. It'll give them an insight to what their children are doing during the day. I think it's a wonderful idea.
I don't see where it's much different than what we're doing. Because it's not stating that they're coming in for the whole day, number one, just that it's on a day of Monday. Every year then, if you establish it, well, we've always had that. We have it in kindergarten, in kindergarten roundup, we pursue the same thing.
To attend class with the children, because
They
that's what
come
it's
to the
saying.
classroom, they go into the classroom.
But it's not while the child is attending class. They're not seeing the instruction.
And meet your teacher, your kids don't come sometimes with you.
They're supposed to if they want to.
My kids never come with me.
Well, that was
That's a choice, I know.
the family.
I thought it was
choice.
more, so the teacher could talk to the parent about what the expectations were.
Well, it's not gonna be a demand on families, it's just a demand on, on the school district.
It's an invitation to our parents.
Right, the
No,
opportunity.
it's a demand on the district, you have to do this. Once you begin this 8.95, you have to continue it. When
Right.
do you, but we already have it anyway, and we continue it year to year. So you're saying you wanna add to it and say for the whole school day, that's
Right.
what you're saying?
I would love it. It's an opportunity for the parents to be in here, and if they can't have to leave after half a day, they leave after half a day. It's just an opportunity for the parents to come in and see what's, their child's learning.
I think they have that if they were going to come, all they have to do is go to the principal.
I think it's
That
just
is
an
correct.
opportunity for just school-wide to say, hey,
Come in and
you're
see what we're
invited in.
doing.
We do, we're doing that.
I don't
You've done
remember
it?
ever being invited to come in while my children were in class.
Not on the first Monday in October, anyway.
I know, we do it at work, all the works do it, Caterpillar and the hospitals, it's like bring your kid to work day, it's a national day, they go to work with you all day and they see what you do.
So are we or are we not doing this? We are not doing this on a full day of school. We're doing this on Meet the Teacher night.
We do not have an established, formalized day upon which parents are encouraged to come into school. No. Are parents prohibited from doing that? No.
Okay.
Do we have other things that are opportunities for parents to be involved and engaged in the school setting? Yes. Is it this specific program? No. But there are opportunities and things that go on in the school
Yes, I know that.
that are a change from the previous couple of years.
Yes.
Okay, then it also says you've got to go to the caveat, to the footnotes. First thing it's telling you to do, you better consult your attorney before implementing this law. Because it's going to impact wages, hours, terms, conditions of employment. It's going to be subject to collective bargaining. And it's going to impact school safety and security. So it has a lot of restrictions on the district. So we can't, I don't see that with that, we can even have a first reading until we maybe explore attorney and conditions of the labor unions.
I'm not asking the teachers to do it anymore.
Pardon?
I didn't think we were asking the teachers to do it anymore.
It's,
No, but
I'm
I'd
just
like their
reading what it's
input.
saying
Yeah.
there.
I
I'm
would
just-
like the teachers' input on it. What would they think about this? Having a day in October,
Mhm.
having the parents invited in. I honestly don't think you'd get that many parents, but I wish we would.
Yeah.
And we're always saying, I wish the parents were more involved. And, you know, I wish we could talk to the parents about how they can instruct their child in the evening. This is a perfect opportunity.
There's other opportunities, but this definitely has a footnote that says, don't do it until you've discussed it with your attorney.
I
We have
agree,
not done
I
that.
agree. I agree
Well,
that we need to
first
do
of
that.
all, we would have there's a lot of time between now and October, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of time between now and October. And if it's opening up our schools to the parents, I also am under the impression that you might get people to come to LaSalle. I highly doubt you get that many people that would actually go to Parkview.
I would have went if it was there. And you
Because
know,
a lot
my
of us
experience with
want-
Meet Your Teacher Night was this. The unfortunate part is lots of times when you have Meet Your Teacher Night, a lot of the area kids that graduated knows about it. I'm trying to talk to the teacher and you have all these high schoolers coming in. It was kind of really disruptive. It would have been nice to see them in that environment and not as disruptive. So,
This
I-
would
It's
be
not
to
been my
parents
experience the
and
past 2
guardians,
years.
Not high
It
schoolers.
is my
I'm-
change.
that-
Not
But
civil.
that was
I'm
my
not saying, I'm not
experience.
debating that was your experience, but I'm just saying, the
Maybe
past
at
2
the
years.
end of the
I
time,
haven't
at
seen
the end
that.
of the time they come in, but not during your meetings, because those are set times.
No, that was
I think
different,
that's
that's
just
just
set up
about
by
report
meetings.
card, I'm not
It's
talking
just
about
set up
meet your
to-
teacher night. I mean, I was talking about meet your teacher night,
Yeah.
not talking about when you go talk about
Conferences.
conferences. Conferences, you're right, it was a set
So
time.
can we ask you, Mr. Aldridge, to pursue that, what it says in the footnote,
Of course.
so that discussion can be brought of why we should or shouldn't?
I think if it's something that's being done in other areas, if we want more involvement without taking more of our teachers' time, without taking instruction away from the kids, if it's an instructional day. parents
That's
can
my
come
only thing,
in.
is the intrusion on the instructional time for teaching. You know, we have such limited time anyway. We have other demands. We have all of the testing that happens, that takes away from actually learning the stuff that they're gonna be tested on. It's just another drain on instructional
And
time.
it wouldn't even have to be all day. It's true. But I did go in as a parent, and I did observe one whole day, and it's very enlightening in many, many ways. I think every parent should do it. and hear what the teachers are having to deal with and
Exactly.
why things are like they are.
Right.
Okay.
So if I'm hearing it correctly, I'm to contact the board attorney to see if there will be any implications to the collective bargaining agreement. And,
Yeah, it just
I'd
really
like to get some
outlines
input
things.
from teachers too, if you could
which collective bargaining may be required.
send
From
out
the
an
head
email.
teachers,
Yeah, I'd like to know what they think about it.
an
Well,
email
No,
response.
No?
tomorrow, I have a labor management committee meeting, and we can bring it up then.
Oh,
Kelly, Mrs. Kelly.
Are there any doors you want me to secure before I go, sir?
It's to secure,
Yes.
no, we'll take care of those.
Okay.
Oh, the back door and the playground door.
Okay.
And the other door down there. We'll take care of those two.
Well, yeah, but the fourth grade and the front door are unlocked, and will you guys use the lounge tonight, or should I go ahead and lock it?
You can lock that up.
Okay.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you. So, okay, yeah, I can put it to the teachers, see what kind of input they may have, and I will contact the attorney. So, what does that do with our policy? Should it be as presented?
It would still need to be a professional school day. I mean, it's not a blow-off day for, party day for the kids. Treat day.
Well, when you've got an input of the amount of people in a classroom, it is going to be very difficult for any training.
So,
We
we have
need,
to.
we need to show our parents what we're doing. Our
I
test
didn't say
scores
anything.
are showing one thing. I want our parents to come in and I want them to see what their children are learning from our teachers. I think it's an excellent opportunity.
Nobody's saying anything different than that,
Mhm.
except I'm saying they have that opportunity, number one. If they wanted to take it, they have it.
That's very true.
And number two, like Mrs. Bailey said, and number two, we give them so many opportunities to come in. Donuts with mom and dad, talking to the new principal, having breakfast with him. We give them so many opportunities. I'm just saying, we are giving them a lot. We are asking them, and
But-
have been for years upon years.
But not in the classroom while the teacher's teaching. That
They
would be a
can ask.
special invitation.
Nope, they can come and ask.
again, they can come and ask, and what if you're denied?
We
When?
don't deny.
Not that we don't deny, but we put limitations on them. If the teacher is, having a test that day, we're not gonna want the parents in during that time, but they're not denied, but there are, some limitations on arranging and scheduling.
Perfect reason
not
to make
deny.
the first day in
October
October
1st.
then.
That way the parent knows, not to ask for a different day off work, not,
Yeah.
You can get it all done in one day.
Yeah, but look into it
I mean, I
and
can't see why we don't want our parents in here.
Yeah, the
Nobody
security
said
guard.
we don't want
No,
them.
I mean, other than, the security and talking to the attorney to see if it's,
Well, and granted, we have a lot of stuff to get done for testing and all of that we have to get crammed into our kids. Now at this point, my guys are telling me that the school being out, they have a lot of stuff that they've gotta get done.
Well, they'll have
being
extra
out,
days.
So, but,
Not yet, right?
at this point, I don't know that it would hurt to find out some information around this one day.
it's October 1st, and what some school districts do, they send packets home all year with the child to say, okay, this might be on the task, this might, do this, and maybe it would be a way to introduce that to the parents that day too, and say, we're gonna start sending things home, it's so important that you go over this with your child. I mean, it's just an avenue.
So further I believe we should table this, get our legwork done on it, and bring it back. Would anybody else be in agreement to that?
Very good. All right. Now we're into our exhibits and administrative procedures. Isn't this fun? Policy 3:60E, exhibit. Reporting requirements for building principals concerning school safety and security. What they're saying is this is a new policy, as you can see up in the corner, that it details each mandated reporter provides to whom the report must be made, the timelines for making the report, resources and important web links.
Is that cannabis on here?
What's that?
I wonder if cannabis is in this one.
Cannabis.
It's got about everything
Oh,
else. There's
who we're supposed to
hazing,
report that
yeah.
to? Hazing, where's the
Drug, There's
student,
drug violation.
where's the student teen violence, teen dating violence at?
It's
Is there one in there about that, who we're supposed to report it to?
Report this for hazing to the superintendent.
Hazing, where's that?
Right there.
Hazing.
Page
Yeah.
3 of 4.
3 of 4?
Hazing resulted in bodily harm to the person.
Yep,
Law enforcement.
there's your answer.
Thanks. All right.
So where's cannabis? Wasn't that the one we were asking about? Who do we report it to? Was that the one we
It
were
was
asking?
hazing.
No, it was the
Oh, it was
hazing,
hazing.
yeah.
Oh,
It was-
okay.
Because that's a crime for me if I don't report it. yeah.
Okay.
This report is made to the superintendent in the event of a death or great bodily harm to law enforcement. The statute does not provide a deadline for making a report, but immediate reports are approved. Okay, very good. This gives it gives all administration just good guidelines to follow. And so I would just say this is something that ought to be approved, adopted, whatever we do with exhibits.
Yep.
All in agreement, right? Okay. All in agreement on that one. So back to 5.
Policy 5:30 AP2, Administrative Procedure Regarding Investigations. All right. Just have to find it in here, AP2. Okay. This procedure is amended to use the statutory language concerning the requirements for contractors, employees, to have criminal history records checks. All right, the change is made in response to feedback. The contractor's employees who must have a complete criminal history records checks was changed from those having contact, direct or indirect, with students. They've changed that to only include those who have direct daily contact with students. So if we have contractors in our building, and I will just, as a matter of example only, use Mr. Wendelin and his employees, okay? They would have direct daily contact with students because they are in the hallways, they are in classrooms, they move around the district completely. So those employees must have criminal history records checks. It used to read if they had contact, direct or indirect, with students. So what they're saying now is it's only those that have a direct daily contact with students. Let's say you have a contractor for your food service, for your custodians, for your buses. Those would be people who would have direct daily contact with students, and those employers would have to have the criminal background checks.
But like if Mr. Grove came in and his associates after school, then we wouldn't have to background check those.
It's correct. That's the
That's
indirect
the building.
contact.
That's
Yes,
true.
that is correct.
You have kids in the building like doing basketball practice and,
You got kids after-school programs.
so that's true too.
Direct daily contact, direct with that student.
We either pass them in the hall, the same as the other.
As in,
Working with them.
we can make all kinds of.
No, I just meant you said that they like
Permutation.
pass them in the hall.
Yeah, well,
Just trying to,
Yeah, I'm just clarifying.
Well,
or we
here
can leave it the
on-
way it is.
Here on our old one, we have general personnel, and it said exempt categories. Do we have that on this one? No? Exempt categories.
In this one, Contractors. This is approved February 2011 in our current contract. The above requirements for fingerprint-based criminal history records check apply to every employee or agent of any contractor if the employee or agent has direct daily contact with students. Note, provisions apply to contractors' employees who have direct daily contact with students. Thus, districts must seek a fingerprint-based criminal history records check for all employees, or include a provision in the contract with the contractor that they will obtain the fingerprint-based history records check and submit it to the district.
I
Yeah,
think we
and
should do
I'm-
that.
I think so.
Whether they have daily contact or not, it doesn't, I don't think that matters.
That's only the one day that like,
Yeah, that's right.
And I was looking at 535 API, the form there, so I moved on is why.
Oh, I see.
I
I
think
moved too far
anyone that has access to the children,
on a day-to-day.
at any point, especially alone. And if they were in here after school, that's more possible.
So we updated a year ago.
And I don't get this policy, the way it looks, because it's like note, and then it's like important. It looks like all of the, there's no importance there, okay, never mind.
So you got, are you,
Okay.
you saying
So-
too, the guy that delivers the milk in the building then has to have a criminal background check if he passes kids in the hallway?
I think you should.
He delivers milk before school starts, so.
No, right, so, but I mean, if you delivered while they were in session with school, sometimes you have student workers back there, I mean,
I think probably the difference, and I could be wrong here, but the school can't be accountable for all of those. You know, you want everyone that walks in this building to get a criminal, do you know how much those cost the school?
it says.
And number two,
The payment for the cost of a check to the district. I was thinking that the contractor would have to pay for the background check.
do they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
A lot of them do it themselves, because
Right, yeah.
they do contract with school districts, and they do it, they already have their
You could
employees
say we're
check.
not responsible, but if something happens, we are responsible.
no,
It doesn't matter.
well, I don't see that. They're talking about people employed by the district. Are they talking
No,
about people not?
Contractors. So, Ms. Shuska, our speech and language pathologist, and her employee, they have direct daily contact with students.
Sure, and their profession has that. They're already
They-
covered with that.
They have to have their background checked. Mr. Wendelin and his employees. You know, I guess, what does contact mean? You know, we could debate a lot of different things.
Okay.
What we want is our children to be safe.
Mhm.
So it says in press here, the procedure notes that to be comprehensive and to eliminate uncertainty, this procedure in policy 4:170, safety, may require a criminal history records check on all contractors, employees who may work in any school building or on school property. So you can certainly make it as comprehensive as you would like
When we hire somebody as a contractor.
when
You're
we
coming
hire
in to
someone.
do something in our building, we want all your employees,
Exactly, and there are students here.
and that's covered in this. It's defined in this new AP 2.
All employees and agents of contractors who have direct dealing on site.
Contractors, The above requirements for fingerprint-based criminal history records check apply to every employee or agent of any contractor if the employee or agent has direct daily contact with students.
Because we need to know what we are arguing about. Or what are we debating about? I think we're all in agreement that safety,
They're using the statutory language concerning the requirements for contractors. That's what
Okay.
they're doing.
so it's put in there for us now. And,
So instead of contract or contact direct or indirect with students, it's been changed to direct daily contact with students. But that seems to be what's in here anyway. So I'm not sure what their This change is made in response to feedback. So, there you go. How would you like to proceed? Proceed, ladies.
Telephone was 2 pages, now it's up to 5 pages.
mhm,
They're getting a little more detailed.
a little.
I just think as we hire people, that we have to make sure that we review that they actually do the background checks on the people.
Yeah, if we hire a company, yeah.
So I think the difference is direct daily contact. Is it anyone that just have direct contact with a student? I mean, what is I mean, to me, I'm thinking direct contact, period, not direct daily contact, because what does that mean? Is it, you know, if you go in once, you're okay, but if you go in 3 days, then you're having now daily contact. I mean, really, what does it mean?
Okay, that's just like,
Challenge.
that's just like if somebody comes to our door at the building and they say, can we go in to check to see if you got a water leak or something? You know, do we just let the people in or do we escort the people into the building?
We have a contract usually with the company that comes in and does that.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Who comes in and checks our water?
Don't we have
No.
like a maintenance
No, I mean,
contract?
if
No,
we
it's
have.
just the
if
water
we
guys.
have- Yeah, I mean.
From the village.
Do we just let them in or do we escort them?
Our water heater? No.
Should they escort?
Wouldn't like-
No, checking the water.
Yeah, we used to have like, yeah, that's what
Checking the water.
She
no
said
one
water
downstairs.
heater.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, do we escort them there? Do we know that person?
Well, that's what I'm
Escorted.
saying.
Yeah.
So do you
So
want
we
like?
need to make sure we've got the
say-
proper controls in place.
Right, so do you want, I mean, you can't have, I agree, someone that's coming in one time to check, like, you have a gas meter with maybe a gas leak, and Amron's coming in to check it. But I mean, if we contract, it says, that's what I'm looking at, who we contract out to, do we wanna make sure all their employees have a background check, regardless if they're in one day, or if they're in here multiple days? That's what I'm looking at, and 1 day's enough.
And usually, contracting is often done during the summertime when there aren't any students. And perhaps in a building that definitely has no activity. So, you know, you don't take on sometimes
But
those
contractor
big
is a very
repairs.
broad term.
Exactly. I mean, we have several that are in here all year long.
The contract is a very broad term because the guy that's delivering the milk is a vendor slash, he's under contract with you. So-
day-to-day basis is what they're trying to. Is that a protection for the district? Is that what it is when they put day-to-day basis? Is that what they're trying to say?
Direct daily contact with students is changed from if employee or agent has any contact, direct or indirect, with students. So they've changed it, who have direct daily contact.
So do we want to leave the first one then?
I'd rather leave the first one.
This is not a policy, this is only administrative
Administrative
procedure.
procedure.
So
That's
that is
correct.
telling the administrators what you want them to do.
And as businesses, I would think also, the more you put restraints on what they have to do to service what you want them to do, or are hiring them to do. They're gonna have to increase prices too, you know? So, and being in a small business, you understand the cost of things like that. I don't know,
But I think our kids' safety comes before a business's viability.
well, I didn't say.
Has it been an issue
different,
before?
but-
Mr. Aldridge, was it?
Any of the contractors that we have had when students have been in school, we have required them to have criminal background checks for all of their employees. That is correct. And the example is, the company that did the sidewalk cuts with the village, okay, the concrete company, because students were still in session, school was still in session, even though they didn't have direct contact with them, with the students. They were still on school property, and they were unsupervised by school officials or personnel. I required them to have that. Actually, the engineer said that they would be providing them. So they already knew what their
I think most
requirement
places
is.
And that
Right.
should be the criteria.
Okay, then I say just
Well-
leave it if you haven't had an issue with it before.
But it's adding,
I like the fact
it's
that
adding
that's
strength
all
to what we've got. So if you go from 3 pages up to 5 pages, they must believe there's a
No,
strength.
just that one part. Yeah, I'm not saying don't add the other parts, I'm just,
Oh, I thought you said just keep
Under
what we had.
contractors.
just
leave it
under the
like it
contractors,
was.
if it hasn't been an issue and he's still requiring them to, then why wouldn't we just leave that contractor's part?
Okay, you're not saying to reject the
No,
whole
no,
thing?
no, no, just that one
I
part.
misunderstood you then.
I'm sorry. No, like you said, went to 5 pages.
For a reason.
There must be.
Mhm.
But as far as the contractors, do we all agree then?
Yeah.
Or not?
So,
Do the contractors part.
with,
Per the old AP.
without, okay, yeah, okay, without employee background checks, language. Okay, good. Super. And then anybody that we hire, we have criminal background checks done for anyone that is under our employment. And because Mr. Grove and his assistant are employees, I haven't checked it, but it would be my assumption that he had a criminal background check done when he started.
I just used that as an example.
No,
First person I
but it's a
thought.
good one.
Is he employer or contractor?
He is an employee.
Okay, I
Yes.
just wondered, I thought he was a contractor.
Right. No, that's
I
good.
really did.
Okay,
Sorry.
so that if he has somebody come in and help him,
We don't, yeah, he just hires who he wants.
That's what I'm saying. I'm under the
Oh.
assumption that his assistant has also had a criminal background check.
well, I'm confused, how can he be an employee, have an assistant?
Same as
Would that make him a
speech.
contractor?
Ms. Greiner, there are many things related to personnel issues and compensation and how people are classified around here that are out of the ordinary. Let's put it that way.
So do we have to pay like pension on him and everything?
Probably discussion for another time.
Probably.
I just wonder, yeah, maybe we should change this and start doing a contract on some employees, period.
We have
Okay,
a
next
contract.
one.
Okay, yeah.
5.35, we stick to the agenda here.
What about it?
5:35 AP1, Administrative Procedure, Fair Labor Standards Act exemptions. Okay, so this goes to exactly what you just said, and it talks about who's an employee, who's an exempt employee, who's a non-exempt employee, who is a contractor, who's an individual, independent contractor, blah, 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 blah. There are many things here that
You guys have good timing.
are done incorrectly. Okay, I will leave it at that, and because it is a discussion for another day.
Probably needs to come.
Well, if we adopt this, we will have to make sure we're doing things right. I mean, I know it's just AP.
Okay.
It's got government websites to go
Well,
to.
maybe one of these days when we have our next, you know,
Here's your current.
picnic meeting or whatever we're calling those
And
things,
here's-
retreat, we can talk about all this stuff.
I think the current one was more specific.
Well, we've got
Retreat,
to.
is that what it was?
Bonfire.
Bonfire.
It looked like to me all they did was
Marshmallows,
just
I
add
could have
websites
had
to the old.
They do
So,
that.
I would say we could just go with a new one.
Yes.
That says,
Yeah, I vote to adopt.
35.
Isn't it?
It's fine, I don't care either way.
AP
This is the
one.
one we have now.
The following important message is added to this procedure, as well as to all procedures implementing the Fair Labor Standards Act. Important. This is what they've added. Important. School officials should contact the board attorney for application of the Fair Labor Standards Act to a specific situation. The information contained in this procedure and any information provided in the hyperlinks contained in it should be confirmed with the board attorney before its application to a specific situation. We also added numerous links to helpful material published on the U.S. Department of Labor's website, which infuriates me, because they say you should contact your board attorney, but then here's all these helpful materials. So you could go on the department's, you know, what are they telling an administrator who doesn't have a law degree to do? They're giving you all this information or places to go, and then negate all that, call your attorney. So it's
Well, just
just with me.
before the application in a specific situation, that's when the attorney should be going. He can interpret it.
AP number 2, 535:AP number 2, administrative procedure, employee records required by the Fair Labor Standards Act. And the list of required records are edited to more closely duplicate the Department of Labor's guidelines. That's all there. They're just saying that, as you can see, we do not have this AP in our current policy handbook.
I'm surprised you're so specific on the wages too,
Very much so.
like
because,
$9 an hour, because it changes like,
you know,
So it's just saying fair minimum wage.
So since we do not have a policy, or have this administrative procedure, AP2, how would the district like, or the board like to proceed with that?
I have one.
What?
I have one in my policy manual.
When was it?
535 AP2.
When was it adopted? It shows that it was February 2009. It says we have one.
No,
No, that's when.
these are the changes, these are our current. So in here, in the white ones, we do not have AP2 in our current board policy.
I see,
That
but
the policies that are on the board are on my assistant's computer. We do not have this,
okay.
AP2.
Even though it was addressed way back in 2009. It
And I
wasn't
have a
adopted.
copy. You have one too?
When
Mrs.
did-
Greiner has one?
Is yours dated?
Nope, no date.
Shame on you, maybe it wasn't voted twice on.
See, she has a new policy manual. I still have
Your
your
old one.
original, yeah, forever.
So
All right.
everything that's in there should be in here. And once again, I go back to, I have to rely on,
So I guess we actually then adopt this for a first reading.
It looks good. Yeah.
AP2. Thank you. 535 AP3, administrative procedure, compensable work time for non-exempt employees under the Fair Labor Standards Act. This talks about instead of instead of giving someone overtime, you give them compensable time to take the time off instead of giving them the wages. That's what this is.
Comp time was illegal now.
Well, I'll let you take that up with the U.S. Department of Labor.
It says they should contact the board attorney for the application of Fair Labor Standards Act.
At one time, I know.
I know.
We weren't
Came down
supposed
that
to.
you couldn't do it.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know where the information came from, so. For help determining whether time spent on work-related activities is compensable as hours worked, see the U.S. Department of Labor's Fair Labor Standards Act Hours Worked Advisor on that website. So,
They cannot waiver wage and hour law requirements now. Huh. Interesting.
so you can see that, you know, they've added this important, they've added the resources, and they've said compensable time defined for non-exempt employees. The amount of pay due an employee cannot be determined without knowing the total number of hours actually worked by that employee in each work week. An employee must be paid for all of the time considered to be hours worked, and all time that is hours worked must be counted when determining overtime. So hours worked is there, and you can see that. The other changes are talking about volunteering your services as a non-exempt employee, volunteering your services that you do as a paid employee. And you can see that they say the resources, the hour and wage opinion letters from the Department of Labor to look at that. So what it comes down to is,
Is this part of our union, that like our unions we have to have?
non-exempt employees are those that are hourly. They're paid as an hourly basis.
So our staff, our support staff. Union, we
Yes.
should make sure we're covering these.
Correct.
I'm good with this one, Reed. Anybody else?
I'm good with it, because we have a public union contract too.
Well, exactly.
Move to first reading.
We had this discussion at our meeting. Attendance at in-services, meetings or lectures, unless attendance is outside the employee's regular working hours, attendance is voluntary, activities not related to the employee's job.
Right, those are the volunteers.
Yeah, we've had those discussions.
Just me.
Okay, moving on.
Policy 535 AP4, Administrative Procedure, Fair Labor Standards Act, 12-step compliance checklist. I will tell the Board of Education that I have not been in a 12-step program in my life, so I just want to put that out there.
Funny, real funny.
This is a compliance checklist. The new introduction is the only thing that's changed. This says U.S. Department of Labor Wage and Hour Division administers the Fair Labor Standards Act. It posts an encyclopedic amount of information on the Fair Labor Standards Act on its website. See this post, this link. And then, as always, it is important for school officials to contact their board attorney for the application of the Fair Labor Standards Act to specific situations.
Adopt.
Looks good, yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Good. 5:35-E, exhibit, volunteer agreement executed by non-exempt employees. I would like to serve as a volunteer for the school district. I understand that. I may not volunteer to perform a job that is the same or similar job for which I'm employed. My time and service as a volunteer are given without promise, expectation, or receipt of any compensation, benefits, or remuneration. My volunteer services are not being performed in the course and scope of my regular employment and are not in any way required by the school district. Either the district or I may terminate my volunteer services at any time for any reason, and it will not affect my continuing employment. This would be such as any of our cooks, or our custodians, or our bus drivers volunteering to read books in this kindergarten classroom.
Looks the same like what we have. I don't see any different.
Well,
Let's go.
It's identical.
E is, the exhibit is unchanged. However, there's a whole bunch of situational things
All right.
that are situations related to specific school districts that they decided need to be talked about. So that's all that is.
Okay.
So,
We
if
have
there.
it in force already, right?
Okay.
So approve that exhibit?
Okay.
All right. Exhibit, letter to teacher, policy 5:190-E3, exhibit letter to a teacher who is not highly qualified. I would submit that we do not hire any individuals who are not highly qualified at this time.
Not applicable.
Not applicable. I do not have that one in my policy packet. I don't know if it's in those out there. So I would contend that I have no recommendation.
Yeah.
Whether you want, if you want this to be included, fine, but it's not a letter that we usually would use.
Something the state had done for a while, pushing on qualified teachers. but
Highly
it didn't
qualified
apply.
teachers, right.
Yeah, so it didn't apply.
Adopt this one.
Anybody want to adopt it? Okay, no.
Thank you. This is a new exhibit, 7:140E, letter to parents and guardians regarding the right to privacy in the school setting act. This is regarding accessing students' social network passwords and websites and letting the parents know that if we have suspicion or reason to believe that there are nefarious things going on their social network, we will ask for access. We would include this in our student handbook and on the website so that everybody knows that this is a new policy.
It's nice. Like the wording of it?
It's fine, yeah.
We still go Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they did add some, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, that's what I was looking at. They did have Instagram, yes, they did.
Ask FM.
Yeah,
Move
yeah.
to first. Thank you. And finally, rewritten policy 7:190-E2, exhibit student handbook checklist. This was rewritten and edited to pull in alignment all the new changes that have happened in the law to make sure that we have all the mandatory notices in our student handbook, which was given to Mr. McCormick this morning to go through it and make sure that our student handbook is legally sufficient on the mandatory topics for notification of parents. So we're doing this whether you adopt the policy or not. So, or this exhibit.
It expands
we're
on
going.
what we've got.
It's mandatory.
And recommended, there's recommended.
Some tough recommended
We're going through it and making sure that our handbook is in compliance.
11 pages.
7 to 11, 7 to 11.
Yeah. We're ready
So,
to
move to first.
Yeah.
go first on
Thank
that.
you.
Okay, can we take Just a minute, we are done. I don't want to interrupt that.
Are we done?
With this,
Okay, I'm gonna take just a minute and just clarify something.
has to do with policy?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
In the past, you have a first reading of a policy, well, we discuss it, then you have a first reading, and you have a second reading and adoption. What we've always done in the past is, as far as the administrative procedures, we either accept them, or approve them, or adopt them one reading. One time.
Yes.
Okay, just clarification,
Right.
same things with the exhibit.
Yes,
Okay,
I would agree.
all right.
Whatever we call it, adoption, approval,
Approval.
acceptance,
Right, I think we used to do
Doesn't matter.
approval, just keep it, maybe,
What's the time frame? Like, the next meeting, we can do the
First-
first reading?
first reading,
On all
And then
of
the
them.
following meeting, we can do the
Second.
Second
Adopt.
reading.
second.
second.
Right.
But not, but she's saying on the exhibits. And
We can do those.
You
Yeah.
don't
You're
have to
done.
do it that way.
We can do those at the
that's
next
what
meeting.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
get clarified.
That is correct. You don't need a second reading for all of those
Right.
procedures and exhibits.
Get them out
Let's
of
see.
the way.
Thank you. Be done with it.
And it's only 10 after 9.
Oh, you could do it.
Ladies, thank you.
And then one thing for research, right?
And I will say, I'm the only one that won the office pool.
Did you
Thank you
really?
very much. Thank you.
And what was that? Carrie?
Over, under, how many we get passed and talked about today at this meeting?
So you pushed it so you could win. That's
I
kind of like
adjourned
a,
the meeting.
you know, inside trading type thing.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, we have to have a motion. We
You
need
need
a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Let's adjourn, ladies.
Second.
You guys.
And roll call,
I
please.
can say it.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
You didn't want to?
Van Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle,
Aye.
Val Reagan,
Yes.
Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Meeting adjourned 9, what do you think, 9:12?
12, 10?